Not due till tomorrow.
You know what your trouble is, don't you? You just don't want work. Did you bother to look through the adverts in the newspapers?
What papers? We only get the one in the morning. There's nothing in that, you know there isn't.
Oh, you could have gone down to that reading room, couldn't you? Here am I, working myself to death, and you can't even stir yourself to go and look through a newspaper.
What sort of job would they have for me?
There's plenty of jobs for them that take the trouble to look for them.
Yeah, and they ask you what experience you've had.
Well, you've had experience.
Not the right kind, though. Just drop it.
No, I won't. It's the same every time.
Luke! You know as well as I do why I can't get a job.
Been out of that place 7 weeks now.
Oh, don't. Let's wrap it up. If you mean prison, say it. Everyone else does.
You can't go on like this.
Well, what am I supposed to do? Just tell me that.
Oh, why had it been me that I'd have a son like you?
Suppose you'd rather have me like Kenneth Barlow at number 3.
And what's wrong with him? Let me tell you something. He'll have no trouble getting a job because he's got it up here, in the upper story, and that's where it counts. I sometimes wish we were more like them Barlows. At least they're not rowing all the time.
Well, just for one afternoon, we've managed to pull her off the street. Pat Phoenix, or as we know her better, Elsie Tanner. May I say, after 22 years, you're looking better than you were in that first piece on early Coronation Street.
You mean I'm wearing well?
Whatever way you want to put it. It must be strange, actually, looking back on some of those old episodes.
I find it very enjoyable, actually. It's full of nostalgia for us, too. And when you think that most of those episodes were made live at the time, that we were actually going hell for leather while we were making those things, and no idiot boards and no retakes, it's pretty good, I think.
It's quite amazing. In fact, there must have been an awful lot of hairy moments and mistakes during the live takes.
Strangely enough, not during the live takes. When we started to put it on tape, then some strange things happened. For instance, there was one particular occasion where we had to have a frying pan start to smoke on the fire, on the gas cooker. And it did more than smoke. It blazed up about 6 feet high. But it was at the end of a tape, and we couldn't stop because we were running out of time. So we just gagged the scene in, and I remember Chris Sanford, who was Dennis's best friend at the time, jumping on the table, on the frying pan, stamping out the flames while we had lived around it.
And, I mean, has there been a few occasions when you've got words all wrong and all mixed up,
yes,
and you've had to go on?
I know you won't mind me telling you this, but my mate, Len Fairclough, Peter Adamson, his famous one was, he had a line about, that fellow's got a brain the size of a pea, you see, and it actually went out live on the telly. That fella's got a pea like a brain. He was the only one in the studio that didn't know he'd said it, and the rest in the Rover's Return was sort of hiding behind pines. Oh, it went out, yes. When you get very short of time, you see, you can't retake, and we've only 2 days to do it, so, you know, it had to go out.
Did you really think that you would be still in it after 22 years?
Now that you ask me...
No.
No, not really. Who would have thought? I mean, I thought that if it ever did take off, which I thought it would, we'd have a good 12 months run in it. And here we are, 22 years later, you see, and older and wiser. And I heard you say that I was broke and unknown. Well, now I'm known and I'm still broke.
Were you totally unknown, in fact, when you first joined the street?
No, I'd done a lot of theatre and a lot of touring around. I've been in the business since I was 11 years old. Don't ask me how long ago that is.
Hush my mouth.
But, you know, I'd been in the business for a very long time, in theatre mostly, which I must admit is my first love still.
But that audition day, I gather, was quite a crucial turning point.
Well, let me say that it was at the time when television screens were filled with, shall I say, British roses, you know? Everybody was terribly nice. And it was, good afternoon, ladies. We are now going to talk about knitting tea cloths. And they were all very chiselled featured and very, you know, very nice ladies. And I felt there was no place in television for me. With this sort of nose and, you know. And I was sent for this interview, which I was very reluctant to go for because I thought, well, I don't stand a chance. And I was most aggressive during the interview. I walked in and instead of finding one person, there was a jury of 6 sort of sitting and looking, you see. And what I didn't know was that I behaved in exactly the right way to get the part. I sort of said... well, don't phone me, I'll phone you, and tripped over the chair and dropped my umbrella and slammed the door. And it was Elsie Tanner. I was at that time, she said modestly, much too young for the part. But I've caught up in the meantime. But there was a little controversy over that, and I often get people say, oh, you look much better now than you did then. Well, it's not true. In effect, for the first 6 months of the series, because I was too young for the part, I had plenty of weight on, that did it. Still got plenty of weight on. Can't lose that stone, you know. And they lined me up, very subtly lined me up, and the hair was taken back to make it more severe and age me. And then after a time, they decided that I'd established that character, and so they left the makeup off. And that is why people think I look much better today than I did then. I don't really. More lines.
But when you think, though, about living with Coronation Street, 2 episodes a week, 12 months a year, I mean, it's a lot of very hard work.
Oh, it is. For instance, we get 2.5 days, or 2 days exactly, to learn Coronation Street. That's both episodes. On Wednesday afternoon, we do what is called technical run. On Thursday afternoon, we tape episode 1, and on Friday, we tape episode 2. There's a deadline. We stop at 6:30, and there's no margin for error, and there are very few retakes, and it goes hell for leather. And if you know what studying 2 episodes a week for 22 years is like, it's like riding a bike uphill. It really is, it's very hard work.
You know, which means that ultimately Coronation Street must have taken over all your lives, in fact. It just becomes a way of life, does it not?
Well, it does, but we're all sort of schizophrenic, all of us, you see. I mean, we managed to live our own lives when we were at home with the door shut and amongst ourselves. But we have a great standing joke. A dear friend, I think if you remember, Jerry Booth in the series who died, Graham Haberfield. When we were ready for a take, when we start taking on a Thursday afternoon, a cry would go across the studio, "Goodbye, real world." And he used to say that we left the real world and went into the... Now we've changed it round. We say that the fantasy is the real world, and the real world is Coronation Street, because we live in it so much, if you understand what I mean.
But the thing is, it's that great relationship that you build up with each other, and as you say, some people have come and unfortunately gone from Coronation Street. But we do want to see a clip, and this one you will remember, I think, very clearly, because you starred in it very strongly. And it goes back to the time of the mission, when there was a threatened gas leak in the street, and all of you were in the mission. It was terrific.
And you can turn that thing off to start. And don't all stand gawping at me, I live here. We know. Did you say something, Mrs. Tanner? Yes, I did, Mrs. Sharples. And while I'm about it, I'll say something else. It's bad enough being chucked out of your house, and having to stay the night here is a damn sight worse. But when you start chucking your flaming waves about, that's the limit. And if we want a bit of music, we shall have a bit of music.
Oh, will you? We'll see about that.
Were you wanting something, Mrs. Sharples?
Because if you were, we might get the idea that we're not welcome here. And if we did get that idea, you wouldn't be welcome at our house.
If that thing disturbs me in the vestry, I'm having the police in. And don't you get big-headed Jack Walker. I can soon find myself another pub.
See, I enjoyed that. Come on, let's show her. Roll out the barrel. Let's have
Absolutely tremendous, you know. But when you think of episodes like that being sold all over the world, what, to 17 countries, it's been seen in all 5 continents, what do they make of Coronation Street in places like Japan, for argument's sake?
They identify. I tell you, I had, many years ago, when I'd had an enormous row with Ina Sharples, I got a letter written in pidgin English from somewhere in Limehouse, enclosed £2, because Dennis had apparently stolen £2 out of one of my ornaments at the time to make up for it, and also a note saying that if Ina Sharples upset you, we cut head off. I mean, people get, terribly involved in it. If we had a death in the street, a make-believe death, we'd get wreaths and letters and weeping and everything. And when I married the American in the street, there was one famous story about they'd all got their seats laid out in one certain household, and their mother dashed upstairs to put her best coat and hat on. to come down and sit in the chair in the lounge and watch me getting married to Steve Tanner.
Oh, it's tremendous. The other thing that not surprises me, but when you think of the generation change, you've got a whole new generation now, and the young people are really hooked on Coronation Street.
It's lovely. It's very... It isn't so lovely sometimes where a young, handsome young man dashed up to me the other day and said, Mrs. Tanner, I've loved you all my life. I've been in love with you ever since I was 2. Makes you feel your age. Yes, we think it's lovely to see the generations grow up. I mean, the amazing thing is that you say to some of the kids, do you remember so-and-so? And they've no idea, people that have been part of the life of Coronation Street.
And then it's a tight community feeling as well, isn't it, that a lot of young people haven't experienced, you know, people living in close proximity to each other.
If you would ask me, I think that is mainly the secret of the success of Coronation Street. It is a community. People are locked together, even if they, in the script, don't like each other. There is a community living together, and I think in this day and age, this is what is needed, a community spirit. People are seeming to be spread far apart, and life is not as it was.
Well, I know that you have some tremendous fans throughout the world, and Jim Callahan, just to keep it very much on a local basis, said that you are the sexiest lady on television.
Oh, that's a lot of years ago, looking over.
Do you think you're still going to be there in another 22 years?
Oh, yes, you know, sort of bald and toothless, and probably, yes.
Well, the very best of luck, and I know that everybody will like to wish you that as well. Pat Phoenix, thank you very much.
Thank you.